Okay, so at this point, you should have a copy of the class repo, the project repo, in your GitHub account. And so you should have a page like this, which I'm calling your project repo homepage, like the top level of your GitHub repo here. And importantly, it has your username up here and intro to web dev here. So you could edit the files directly in GitHub, which I showed in the last video, by going to a particular file and then clicking this pencil icon. But like we saw, that's kind of annoying, kind of really annoying actually, because GitHub pages just takes a while to update. So like when you make a change, it takes, I don't know, somewhere between 1 and 5 minutes for the change to be visible in your like live URL that GitHub pages deploys automatically. And that's just kind of annoying. And there are other things where it's annoying to like make changes to multiple files, and it's just generally kind of a frustrating experience. So you're welcome to try to continue editing directly in GitHub, but I promise that you will get frustrated and impatient with it, because it's really not designed to be used that way. So instead, this video is going to walk through an alternative that I suggest, specifically if you have a computer that doesn't let you install software or download files or that kind of thing. So for example, if you have like a Chromebook that doesn't let you install things like GitHub Desktop or like edit files locally, or if you're using something like a shared lab computer where you don't have your own like section of the hard drive, or really anything like that. You don't necessarily need any of that to write code. So this video walks you through that process. So let's see. So I'm going to be working from this this guide, and by the time you watch this video, this guide might look a little different. So don't get too worried if something changes between now and when you're watching this video. But this is kind of the guide I'm walking through. So the online tool that we're going to use is a thing called Replit. So let me go there in an incognito window so you can see what it looks like when you're not logged in. So if you don't have a Replit account, you'll see something like this. Again, they might change it by the time you watch this video, but generally it's going to be a big homepage. But really what you want is this sign up button. So go to replit.com/signup and sign up for a Replit account. It should be free and all that good stuff, so don't worry too much about it, but just sign up for a Replit account. And then when you log in, you can go to Replit, and now I'm going to go in like in my real account. This is signed in already, and you'll see a few things. So Replit, at a high level, Replit is a way to edit files online. So you can kind of think of it as like maybe like Google Docs for code, kind of. But there's all kinds of different things you can do, and feel free to click around and play around and explore. But the way we are going to use it is to connect it to our GitHub repos directly. And so you can find this blue like Connect GitHub button directly from Replit's homepage. Click that. And that's going to ask you to authorize Replit. This is basically saying, do you give permission for Replit to read the code from your GitHub repos? And we do. Install and authorize, blah, blah, blah. And after a minute or so, that will hopefully kind of go away. Maybe. There it goes. And so now you should see GitHub repos on your homepage. If not, maybe just try refresh and reload the Replit homepage, and you should see it. If not, let me know. So now we have this GitHub repos section on our Replit homepage. And what we can do now is click the one. So I have 2 in my account. Most likely, if you've never used GitHub before, you just have the one that you set up in the previous step. So just go to that and click that. So what this is doing is telling Replit, which again is kind of an online editor, to download the files from the GitHub repo and set up an environment in the Replit tool, or the Replit like web app, that lets you edit those files. So you can kind of think of this as like a much better version of the GitHub editor. Replit is a lot more than that, but to oversimplify, you can kind of think of it in those terms. So there's a few things to notice. One here, so first of all, my screen is really tiny. I did that so you could see it a little better in the video, but hopefully your screen looks a little bit more organized than mine does. But over here on the left, you have your file explorer, so you can click through and, there's a top level index.html file, which is what we're viewing now. When you get into the projects, you'll click through into a particular week and then edit the files in the particular week's directory. But for now, maybe let's just focus on this top level index.html file, which is the same exact thing as what's in the GitHub repo. It's this file here, index.html. So like this content and this content, they're the same thing. So what we can do next is so we've seen the file explorer on the left, and let me maybe make that a little smaller. So importantly, in the middle here, you have the code editor, and that's, if you're using Replit, this is going to be the thing that you stare at the most over the next few weeks, and it lets you edit the code. So we're going to talk a lot more about exactly what this is doing, what HTML is, HTML tags, all that fun stuff as the weeks go on, but I just want to kind of get the pieces connected for now. So before we even make any changes, let's just hit the run button up here. And what that's going to do is take the code that we've written, or the code that's already there, and run a kind of a preview service, a web server kind of in the background, and it gives you this window over here on the right, and that shows you the final output of the HTML. And you'll notice that this content is the same as what's deployed to GitHub pages end result over here. So our live URL. So editing a file, hitting the run button, and seeing what's on the right, that's going to be pretty common workflow for you in Replit. So let's change something maybe. So right now it just says intro to web development. Let's say intro to web development, ! And maybe I'll add an emoji to make it a little bit more fun. There's a cat now. And I'm going to save that. I think it might save automatically, but I'm paranoid, so I'm going to save it. And then I'm going to hit the run button again. And there we see our ! And we see our beautiful cat emoji. And notice how fast that was. That's the main benefit of using Replit over trying to edit files directly in GitHub. There are other benefits, but it lets you hit the run button and see your change immediately. You don't have to wait that 5 minutes for GitHub pages to kick in and do its thing. So this is a lot easier for local development and testing and iterating and all that stuff. So that's why I recommend this environment. But anyway, we have the content. We see that it's working. We can test it out, and maybe you make a few other changes. Maybe you work through a project or whatever. But the idea is that you see it over here and it's working and you're happy with it. So now what I want to do is push it to GitHub. So notice if I go back to my GitHub repo over here, the changes that I've made in Replit, they don't automatically push to GitHub like as soon as you make them. So if I refresh this, you'll see that my index.html page indeed does not contain our ! Does not contain our beautiful cat emoji. And if I go over here to the deployed GitHub pages URL, same thing, it doesn't contain the changes that we made. We can really only see the changes in Replit. And there are ways to set up our Replit that would let us share this URL and send that to other people, but just for the sake of having everybody working on the same sort of end result, I'm going to ask that everybody push to GitHub and use GitHub pages to sort of publish your work. So anyway, that's the background. And now how to do that is go over here to this like left icon navigation bar and check out this version control button. Click that. And that will take you to this tab that shows you kind of the changes that you've made, and it lets you do things like interact with your GitHub repo. So what we want to do generally is first just confirm that the changes that are listed here are indeed what you expected. So in this case, we only edited one file. We edited index.html, and indeed that is what I would kind of expect. And then after you're finished confirming the changes, then type a little message here. It can be anything, but generally you should make it like a short kind of description of what you did. So in this case, I'm going to say made my homepage more exciting with an exclamation point and a cat emoji. Okay, and this is going to be shown in GitHub, so it's public and stuff, so just keep in mind that this can be seen by anybody. So I'm going to commit and push. And it's going to go and do its thing. And it's uploading the changes that you made to your GitHub repo. So now, if I go back to my GitHub repo and I go here, you'll see a couple things. First, you'll see here's where that message shows up. It shows up as like the last change made to a particular file or a directory, so it'll show up there. And I can click in here and I see the source code. Indeed, there's our exclamation point and our beautiful cat emoji. And now, moment of truth, what should happen is, since we're using GitHub Pages, as soon as you push something to GitHub Pages, it'll kick off a process that automatically takes your code and deploys it to the live URL that you can share with other people. So I'm going to go over here and I'm going to refresh. And it did not do that. Great. So this is actually why I have recommended using Replit, because this just takes a minute. It just takes some unknown number of minutes, and it's kind of flaky, and it's a different number each time, it seems. I don't remember if I explained this in the last video, so I'll just point out this section. It comes in handy when you're using GitHub Pages, because that will show you the sort of current status of the deployment. So I can click here. And okay, so 41 seconds ago it did something, so maybe it is actually done now. So let me go over here and refresh, and there we go. Okay, so there's our exclamation point and our cat emoji, and this is the live URL that I would ask you to share with the class and with me and in the submitted material and stuff. But the flow is you work from your Replit project, which is called a REPL, I guess. This is all your code, and you'll work through each week and make some changes, test it locally here using this run button, and when it works locally or in your Replit, then go over to your version control tab, type a little message, and commit and push it to your GitHub repo. And then I would just double check that it's actually in your repo, and then when it's deployed to GitHub Pages, then you are sort of done with your change. Cool, so that's Replit in a nutshell. Let me just double check that I haven't forgotten anything. Yeah, that's everything. So if you have that flow working, then you're done and you're ready to keep going. So I'll see you in the next one.